The rain was pouring down on that gray London afternoon, turning the narrow streets of the poor quarter into muddy rivers. St. Margaret's Community School, an old, time-worn building, stood as a safe haven for dozens of underprivileged children in the area. Helena, a dedicated 34-year-old teacher, was at the end of another day of work. It was Friday, and she took advantage of the calm after the last class to correct tests and organize the materials for the next week. He knew that the school's budget was getting tighter, and any wasted resources could mean less teaching materials or meals for students. The noise of quick footsteps and stumbling on the soggy asphalt caught his attention. Looking out the window, she saw a young man staggering on the sidewalk, soaked by the rain and clearly injured. His sleek, wet clothes were stained with mud, and his face expressed more than physical pain. It was emotional pain, a suffocating sadness. Without thinking twice, Helena ran to the door and opened it. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice full of genuine concern. The boy looked at her with lost blue eyes, as if he didn't expect to find kindness in that place. "No. I just need a place to stay." "A moment," he replied, his voice trembling. "Come. And you're shaking. I'll get you something hot," Helena said as she guided him into the school. As he settled into one of the small desks in the empty room, Helena fetched a towel and a cup of hot tea from the small kitchen that served as the dining room. When he handed the cup to the boy, he noticed the scratches on his hand and the small cut on his forehead. "Let me see that. It looks like you got hurt," he said, picking up the first aid kit he always kept nearby. He hesitated, but eventually allowed her to clean the cut carefully. "Thank you," he murmured without looking at her. "I didn't expect anyone to help me. What happened to you? It seems that it has gone through a real disaster." Helena tried to soften the mood with a welcoming smile. The young man let out a bitter laugh. "In a way, yes, I think I was running away." "Everything." "Running away?" she asked, keeping her tone gentle without pressuring him. "My name is Lucas, and let's say I'm tired of living a life that seems perfect to others but completely empty to me." He took a deep breath. Today was supposed to be the most important day of my life, an event with powerful entrepreneurs, an agreement that would guarantee the future of one of the largest companies in Europe. But I left there, and it ended up here, in the most forgotten part of London, Helena added, watching her tired countenance. "Maybe I ended up here because it's the only place where no judgments, no expectations." Lucas's eyes finally met Helena's. She smiled with compassion. "Well, whoever you are, Lucas, here you're just someone who needed help, and I'm happy to be able to help." The silence between them was welcoming. Lucas drank the hot tea while observing the simplicity of the school. The children's drawings hanging on the walls, the old chairs and tables that creaked with every movement, the humble and welcoming atmosphere that contrasted with the luxurious environments he always knew. "Do you do this every day?" he asked, pointing to the notebooks and materials scattered on the table. "Yes, I teach the children here. I try to offer the best I can, even if the resources are few." Helena's voice carried a tone of resignation, but also of passion. "It seems very difficult," Lucas commented, amazed. "It's hard, but it's what makes me feel alive," Helena said without hesitation. "Helping these children gives me purpose, and from what I understand, you're still looking for yours." Those words hit him like a punch in the stomach. He always had everything money could buy, but he never found anything he really wanted to keep. Helena's authenticity was a stark contrast to everything he knew. "Maybe you're right," Lucas said quietly. Thunder rumbled outside, but inside that small and simple room, something new was being born. A genuine connection between two people from completely different worlds, but who, in some way, complemented each other. The weekend passed slowly for Helena. She kept thinking about the mysterious Lucas and the words they exchanged on that rainy afternoon. Something about the way he spoke, the pain he carried, seemed more genuine than any rich person she had ever met. But on Monday, everything was back to normal. The children returned to school, and Helena dedicated herself to teaching basic mathematics, reading, and art to her little students. His life was made of that: hard work, dedication, and hoped to do genuine good. But that routine was abruptly interrupted on Wednesday, when the school received an official notification. It was early in the morning when Helena entered the teacher's room and found the principal of the school, Mr. Harris, sitting with a pale face and trembling hands as he held an official letter. "Helena," he said, looking up desperately, "we have a very serious problem." "What's wrong?" she asked, her heart already racing. "We are being investigated for mismanagement of resources." He held out the letter so she could read it. "Someone made an anonymous complaint." "That's impossible," Helena exclaimed, incredulous. "We barely have the resources to manage, let alone to waste." "I know, but the complaint came with documents that supposedly prove irregularities in our accounting." Harris's voice was shaky. "And Helena, all the documents are signed by you." Helena felt the ground disappear from under her feet. "That can't be true. I would never do anything like that. I am responsible for planning the classes and supporting the teachers, but I have never touched the school's financial resources." "I believe in you, Helena. But they will investigate everything. And if we can't prove our innocence, the school will be closed in less than a month." Despair took hold of Helena. That school was more than a job for her. It was his life, his mission. Every child she taught, every smile she saw was a victory against the harsh reality of that community. "I'll find out who did it," she said with determination. "I can't let them ruin the only safe place these children have." Later that day, Helena would walk through the empty classroom, your gaze lost in the colorful drawings hanging on the wall. How could that have happened? Who would be trying to destroy what she has built with so much effort? Suddenly, a memory invaded his mind. Luke. That mysterious young man who appeared out of nowhere at the school door, in the midst of the storm. He said he was running away from an important meeting, tired of a life full of expectations. He seemed genuine, but what if it wasn't? What if he had any involvement with that? After all, how could someone so rich show up there precisely on the day that the school papers were supposedly tampered with? That can't be a coincidence, Helena muttered to herself. But before he could sink into more paranoid theories, the school phone rang. St. Margaret's Community School. This is Helena. Helena, it's Lucas. The voice on the other end of the line was nervous, but determined. Lucas? His voice became cold and defensive. Why are you calling? I need to see you. We need to talk. It is urgent. Urgent? Now everything is urgent, isn't it? You appear out of nowhere, disappear out of nowhere, and now you want to talk? His voice trembled. Do you happen to know that I'm being accused of theft? That the school can be closed because of you? I didn't know, but I can help. I need to explain a few things. Please just give me a chance. Helena was silent, her heart torn between distrust and hope that Lucas could be the key to solving that problem. All right, I'm in school. Come quickly. She hung up the phone, but her chest was still tight. The idea that Luke might have anything to do with the destruction of her school was painful, but if he was guilty, she would find out. And if it wasn't, maybe he could really help. The day progressed slowly. Every second seemed like an eternity to Helena. His head was spinning with confused thoughts and contradictory theories about what was happening. In the middle of the afternoon, Lucas finally showed up. Unlike the disoriented young man Helena had helped on that rainy night, he now wore a sober suit and was noticeably more composed. Still, something in his eyes seemed tormented. I came as soon as I could, Lucas said, panting, standing at the entrance of the school, and it took long enough. Helena's voice was cold. If you're here to apologize, you don't have to. But if you're here to help me fix this mess, then come in. Lucas entered. The silence between them was sharp. Helena guided him to the small teacher's room, which also functioned as a meeting room, cafeteria, and improvised warehouse. So? She crossed her arms, keeping herself at a safe distance. What do you want? First, I want you to know that I had nothing to do with this ridiculous accusation against you. His voice was firm. I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't really know this was happening. You disappear for days and now appear with this lame explanation? Helena replied, her gaze full of suspicion. Lucas took a deep breath. I disappeared because I had to resolve some personal issues. And ironically, part of that involves protecting people like you. I was trying to escape the pressure of my family, but it seems like their world chases me wherever I go. And what does this have to do with my school being closed? Helena asked impatiently. More than you think, Lucas said, finally sitting down. When I ran out of that meeting, I left behind a contract that apparently my father managed to close, without my presence. It turns out that the land where your school is located is exactly the place they want to buy, to build a new shopping complex. The shock in Helena's expression was immediate. So, is that it? Do they want to destroy this school to build more buildings and offices? Yes, and the complaint against you is probably an attempt to get any resistance out of the way. If they prove that you are involved in embezzlement, it is easier to justify the closure of the school and the expropriation of the land. That's cruel, Helena said, her voice breaking. All I did was try to help these children, and now they are trying to destroy everything. Lucas lowered his eyes, embarrassed. I didn't know that's what they wanted. I only found out now when I started to investigate what happened that day I ran away. And when I heard that you were being accused, I had to come and warn you. Helena looked at him, her eyes shining with suppressed tears. Part of her wanted to believe in Lucas, but another part was still in shock at the revelation. And why are you telling me all this? Why don't you just take their side? It's what anyone in his position would do, she said defiantly. Because I'm not like them, Lucas replied with a sincerity that surprised Helena. I ran away because I was tired of living a life that is not mine. And when you helped me without wanting anything in return, I realized that I needed to change. Helena was silent for a moment, taking in the words. Right. If you want to help me, you need to give me proof, something that can exonerate the school and get me out of this accusation. Lucas nodded. That's exactly what I'm going to do. But you need to trust me. Trust is something I can't offer right now, Lucas, Helena said seriously. But if you bring this evidence, maybe I'll change my mind. Lucas stood up, looking decided. I'll be back as soon as possible. And when I come back, I'll have everything you need to prove your innocence. He left the school without looking back, leaving Helena alone with her mixture of hope and skepticism. A few days later, Helena was working alone at the school during the night when she heard frantic knocking on the door. It was Lucas. His expression was a combination of relief and urgency. I did it, he said, handing her a thick envelope full of documents, papers, emails, reports, all proving that someone manipulated the school's financial records to simulate embezzlement. Helena opened the documents in a hurry, her eyes scanning each line with precision. There were the names, the numbers, the messages exchanged. Proof that someone had tried to ruin his life out of greed. I don't believe it, Helena said, her voice choked with relief and anger at the same time. I swear I'll help you clear your name and make sure the school keeps running, Lucas promised, his eyes fixed on hers. Finally, Helena smiled. Maybe, just maybe, Luke was telling the truth. The relief of having the proof of his innocence in his hands did not last long. Helena knew that while Lucas had found enough evidence to overturn the accusation of mismanagement, that didn't guarantee that the school would be safe. His family's company would continue to move forward with plans to expropriate the land. It was a cloudy afternoon when Helena received an unexpected phone call. Helena, it's Lucas. His voice sounded urgent. Can we meet? I need to show you something important. Right. You can come to school, she replied, even without hiding a slight irritation. I didn't know if I could trust him completely, but I couldn't deny that he had helped. 15 minutes later, Lucas appeared. This time, he had a determined look. He wore casual clothes without the weight of his expensive suits. It seemed more human. What is so urgent, Lucas? Helena asked, crossing her arms. I brought this to you, he said, handing over a dark leather briefcase. Read on. Helena opened the document and began to leaf through it. It was a contract that offered the school full funding for renovations, modernization of facilities, and even the creation of new educational programs. "What's that?" she asked, incredulous. "I talked to my father," Lucas explained, his gaze serious. "After I found out what was happening, I confronted him. I managed to convince him to back down on the expropriation plans, as long as I took charge of the school project and ensured that it became a sustainable model." "And why would he do that?" Helena asked, still suspicious. "Because I made it clear that if he didn't accept, I would completely leave the family business and denounce the manipulations they were trying to do," Lucas replied firmly. He knew I was serious. "And what do you want in return?" Helena asked, her voice full of suspicion. "I want to turn this school into something big, something that can inspire other educational initiatives around the country. And I want to do that with you," Lucas said, his eyes fixed on hers. "Because I believe you're the only person who can make this place bloom the right way." Helena's heart was beating fast. It was an offer he couldn't refuse, something that could completely change the fate of that school and all the children who depended on it. But mistrust still kept her on her toes. "How can I be sure that this is not just a move for your company to get rid of the bad reputation it tried to throw on me?" she asked, her hands trembling. "I understand your fear." Lucas took a deep breath. "But for this reason, I am proposing that you have total autonomy over the school. I want to be just the investor, not the owner. The project will be yours, your vision, your rules. And if I try to interfere in any way, you can cancel the contract at any time." Helena was silent. The proposal was tempting, but it was hard to forget all the pain and humiliation she had suffered because of all this conspiracy. "And why are you doing this, Lucas?" Helena asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Because I want to do something that really matters. Something that is not just about money, power, or status," Lucas replied, his eyes brimming with sincerity. "And because you showed me that helping others is much more rewarding than living stuck in a life that is not yours." For a moment, Helena let her conflicting emotions mix. She could feel the sincerity in his words. He could tell that Lucas was not the same embittered boy who showed up in front of the school on that rainy night. "Then you want to help the school. And do you want to do this to me?" Helena asked, with a faint smile forming on her face. "Yes, I want to do it the right way," Lucas said confidently. "So, I accept," Helena said finally. Lucas let out a sigh of relief and let out a genuine smile. For the first time, he felt that he was doing something true, something that could really make a difference. "We are going to transform this school into something incredible," he said, shaking Helena's hand. And for the first time, Helena believed that maybe things could really get better. The following months were intense. Not only did Lucas make good on his promise to fund the renovations of St. Margaret Community School, but he also brought in experts to help Helena expand the educational programs. The school received new classrooms, a modern library, computers, and even an artistic activity center for children. More than the resources, however, Lucas offered his time. He wasn't just a distant investor. She often showed up at school to work alongside Helena, attending meetings, developing ideas, and even teaching the children in some extracurricular activities. The project began to attract attention. Local newspapers, digital influencers, and even some educational magazines covered the history of the school's revitalization. But none of this mattered as much to Helena as seeing the children learning and thriving in a better environment. One afternoon, after a grueling meeting with some members of the community, Helena and Lucas were sitting in the school's new library. "I never thought that one day I would be here, watching all this happen," Helena said, her gaze lost as she watched some children laughing and playing outside. "And I never thought I'd be doing something that would make me feel so accomplished," Lucas replied, his tone soft. Helena smiled, but there was something in her eyes that still carried a shadow of distrust. "Why did you do all this, Lucas? I know you've asked this before, but it's still hard for me to believe that someone like you chose to engage in something so humble." Lucas took a deep breath. "Because I needed to prove something to myself," he admitted. "I've spent my whole Life trying to meet other people's expectations. My father, my family, the company's board of directors. Everyone expected me to be a billionaire focused only on profits. What now? Helena asked, keeping her eyes fixed on him. Now I've found that doing something meaningful is worth more than any amount of money. I realized that I want to use what I have to make a difference, and you were the only person who showed me that in a genuine way. The silence that followed was charged with unspoken emotions. During those months of working together, a connection grew between them. But Helena was still afraid to trust completely. A few days later, while Lucas was at school reviewing some documents, his phone rang. It was his father. "Lucas, we need to talk," said the man in a serious voice. "The media is talking about your educational project. It's attracting too much attention, and I'm not sure if that's positive for the company's image." "I don't care about the company's image," Lucas replied firmly. "I said I would do things my way, and that's exactly what I'm doing. You're rebelling against me because of this." "Teacher," her father's voice was full of contempt. "No, I'm doing this because it's the right thing. And if you can't understand that, then maybe I shouldn't be a part of your company anymore," Lucas said in a definite tone. "You're making a mistake, Lucas." His father's voice now sounded more menacing than ever. "No, the biggest mistake I would make would be to continue living an empty life just to please you." And with that, Lucas ended the call. For the first time, he felt truly free. That night, Lucas looked for Helena at school. She was in the courtyard, watching the stars as some children finished putting away their toys. "Did something happen?" Helena asked when she saw Lucas's serious face. "Yes," he said, taking a deep breath. "I just cut all ties with my family. I made it clear that I will continue with the school project no matter what they think." Helena was surprised. "And what are you going to do now?" "I'll continue to help here if you allow me. And I want to do this not only because it's the right thing, but because I believe in your vision, in our view," Lucas said, with an honesty that made Helena's heart race. Helena looked at him, her eyes shining in the soft darkness of the night. "You've really changed, haven't you?" "Yes, and you are responsible for it," Lucas replied with a smile that mixed gratitude and something else. "Maybe I have to admit that you deserve a second chance," Helena said, finally allowing her smile to open. They stood there in silence, watching the starry sky, both aware that this night marked the true beginning of something great. St. Margaret's Community School became one of England's most revolutionary educational projects. Helena continued to dedicate her life to teaching, now with more resources and support than she ever imagined. Lucas has officially become one of the city's greatest philanthropists, recognized for abandoning the path of easy money and following a true purpose. But more important than the success of the project was the genuine connection they built. A connection that changed not only their lives, but also that of all the children who were lucky enough to find a school made of courage, love, and hope.